Olivia Nuzzi also quoted Swift as saying, "Most memes are ephemeral by nature, but Pépé is not. He's a reflection of our souls, to most of us. It's disgusting to see people, normies if you will, use him so trivially. He belongs to us, and we'll make him toxic if we have to." Jared actually has a really good point here. Normies ruin everything, especially memes. Have you ever visited 9gag? That site is awful. Look, I know it's a tough subject, folks, but we're gonna have to address the normie question sooner or later. There is a lesson to be learned here, though. Normies have an incredibly hard time of penetrating and understanding the alt-right. We've developed such an incredibly complex subculture, replete with our own memes, terminology, and mythology. To a normie, all of this is incredibly bewildering. Seriously, what does the average person think when they come across an article titled, "Esoteric KEKism is a religion of peace"? On the subject of Kek, it has come to my attention that there are still unbelievers within the alt-right. But I hope that these heretics know that Trump was recently endorsed by 14 Medal of Honor recipients and 88 generals. Hell, even the Jews are picking up on this.
Oh,
in conclusion,
really?
I think it's a good thing that Pépé has been vilified. By continuing to associate this racist frog with the alt-right, the media is helping to ensure that the alt-right remains about white nationalism rather than cultural libertarianism or civic nationalism. And regardless of what Alex Jones might tell you, the alt-right is, in fact, about white nationalism.
How many levels of irony are you on, bro? That catchphrase from the internet permeates my consciousness whenever I think about the arc of the Pépé meme based on Matt Fury's cartoon frog from the online comic Boys Club. Pépé the Frog, from what I could see, like the arc of Pépé the Frog starts around 2008, 2009. I myself used Pépé's when they first caught on Facebook during like 2009, 2010, when they were like a neutral meme. Not neutral in terms of like, it was always a very vulgar meme, but it was absurdist, and it was apolitical. It was just sort of this not Matt Fury's original intention, but like the adaptation of Pépé into meme art was not calibrated in left or right. It was like Dali, impressionist art. It was extremely abstract and nihilistic and grotesque, and what people did with it was interesting because it was apolitical, because it was just people being creative with it, and then using Pépé as an icon, a neutral icon of irony. The first time that I started to actually see Pépé being used in a political fashion was by the Tea Party. In the forums during that era was the first time where Pépé was being used to mock President Obama around like the 2010, 2012 mark. Maybe that got lost in the shuffle because it wasn't the banner iconography of the Tea Party. It was like sort of a troll thing. After Mitt Romney lost in 2012, the roots of the Trump movement started to bubble up. Trump started to assert himself in cable news, and started to, around 2013, 2014, start to puff himself up as pulling sort of a Sarah Palin thing of just running for office. You know, the Tea Party set the precedent for Donald Trump. I know I come back to the Tea Party and people are like, man, that's a dead meme. Here's how the Tea Party set up the Donald Trump thing and the Pépé thing. The Tea Party converted the old revivalist Christianity hustle of fundraising via running for public office. This is something that was done by a lot of pastors in the 1980s in the Reagan era. A lot of Republicans during the Newt Gingrich era. There was the campaign that was basically a money laundering scheme, like Herman Cain. Remember Herman Cain? The Tea Party became notorious for running weirdos so that they could use the fundraising apparatus post-Citizens United to launder money. And nobody likes to launder money like Donald Trump. Donald Trump could not have become president before the Supreme Court Citizens United decision gave birth to the political pariah, a right-wing grievance election campaign cycle. So Trump was part of the Tea Party movement. He was the top birther. I remember that he took the mantle of birtherism from a lot of the more mainstream Tea Partiers. You know, he kissed Sarah Palin's ring and dabbled with Glenn Beck, but in the end, he superseded all of them. And when that political movement died, it gave birth to Trumpism, which is like a form of extreme charlatanism. So what's this got to do with Pépé? What's this got to do with KEKistan? What's this got to do with Pole? What's this got to do with the alt-right? And what's this got to do with irony? People who were attracted to Trump were attracted to him, I think, on at least a lot of the hipsters that were attracted to Trump were attracted to him as a form of ironic consumption. As our political system started to collapse, as the cynicism of the bank bailouts infected popular culture, and everything became very much so about ironic detachment. It's like the Chuck Norris thing, right? Like the Chuck Norris, people love Chuck Norris, but they love him ironically. I think Trump was that in political form. And it was meant to kind of be a gag, loving Trump. And just like every other like weird fascist thing, the people who are doing it ironically don't realize that they're setting a stage of infiltration for provocateurs, in this case right-wing provocateurs. 2015, the Gamergate thing is still big and has propelled a lot of momentum towards Trump, of like aggrieved liberal men angry about a lot of like political alienation. They felt betrayed to an extent by the Democratic Party, because a lot of these Trumpers used to be liberal Democrats, I mean, some of them were participants in Occupy Wall Street, and I think in their disillusionment, they floated towards Trump because of, if the system is rigged and corrupt and all that stuff, then they were gonna protest vote for Trump. It wasn't meant that he would win, but so that they could sort of stick their middle finger up at the bicameral, the two-party political system here in the United States that seems to have devolved into a circle jerk between Clintonites and neoconservatives for the last 30 years, 35, 40 years. Since the Reagan era, there's basically been like a merry-go-round of the same people in Washington, and I think that Trump presented himself as being outside of that culture when, in fact, he has been part of that political machinery as a donor for decades, and on both sides, meaning that he was a political donor for Republicans and Democrats. So, how do we, Pépé, right? Pépé starts to catch on, on the Reddit thread, the poll thread on 4chan, which is an extremely racist, sexist, and, of course, again, coming back to how many levels of irony are you on, they just, they hide behind the fact that it's just a meme, bro. That it's just offensive humor, and it's harmless as long as you're joking. But again, I don't think the majority of the people involved in this kind of stuff comprehend the space into which they allow being co-opted. So one of the theories about, one of the sort of apocrypha about KEKistan, right? Because, Pépé came first unto himself, and then the obsession with Pépé mutated on poll into an ethnic identity for people who wanted to compete with the victimhood of actually marginalized people. They felt like their grievances weren't getting as much attention as identity politics victims, people who actually are marginalized. So they created this fictional identity, claiming that it was to condescend to identity politics of all kinds. And it wasn't created by any YouTubers. This idea that a bunch of YouTubers got together in a little room and, led by Sargon, said, hey, this is a good idea. No, Poll created KEKistan. A few months before Sargon co-opted it and turned it into a literal identity, Poll created KEKistan to condescend to marginalized people. It wasn't meant to condescend to the alt-right. You can track the original thread. It is not about condescending to the alt-right in its inception. Okay, Poll is not about condescending to the alt-right. A few months after its creation, right, the first thread was talking about the idea of KEKistan, and there was a later thread where there was like this separatist idea about everyone on Poll funding an island nation and founding an IRL KEKistan. So if that's just a meme, I'd be very, very surprised if people weren't taking the KEKistan identity seriously. I don't think they'd want to buy a literal country where they could separate themselves from normies. I was on Twitter during that period where Sargon picked up KEKistan and turned it into like a cause celeb for his shit lord faction, for his shit lord. And you can follow the history of it on Twitter. this, like, the same day Sargon picked it up, the Republic of KEKistan Twitter account popped up, and most of what that Twitter account and Sargon of Akkad do is, retweet stuff that they find on Poll, which is not a neutral political forum. It is a deeply anti-Semitic, a deeply insensitive platform. So, I can't comprehend this whole, this meme was conceived in good faith. This meme was just meant to be fun and a good time, and, it's currently dying. And I understand people who want it to be neutral because here's where I want to show sympathy. I understand if you look at KEKistan and go, this is not the reason that I use this meme. Okay, but that doesn't negate where it came from. And that doesn't stop it from, when it sees the light of day, being, you can't really say that a knife isn't for cutting because you don't use it for cutting. That's the purpose of a knife, is to cut. And in the end, the construction of the KEKistan meme is about mocking immigrants, refugees, people of color, the grievances of the marginalized. It is a middle finger to people who actually have real problems, real actual victims. And that's my deal with it. That's the history of it. And it's not personal to anybody that uses it, because there are people online that still use the language of it, that I don't have anything personally against. Count Dankula uses it, Jeff Holiday uses it, a handful of people use it, but I don't think that it's possible to, turn a knife into a spoon.